G'day guys and welcome back to RestoHub. In this episode, we're getting back in the engine bay and we're doing some welding. Stick around. Okay, here we are, back for another episode. And I've already made a start on this, so you might recall in the last episode I had that area to finish cleaning up and then get it all into copper weld through primer. So that's all done. And of course down the firewall as well, where it will be flanged up. The panel that's going in has also had the final clean and also weld through primer sprayed on it as well. So effectively all that I've got to do now is put the piece in, position it, make sure it's in the right spot, and then start welding it in. I might just do a couple of tacks here and there before I give it a full weld, just to make sure that it's sitting nice and there is clearance from the booster to the panel, of course. Anyway, stick around, we'll be back soon. Okay, here we are. So this panel has been tack welded from the back side. So I've pulled it as far back as she wants to go and given it a tack and held it in place by a couple of bolts just to make sure it doesn't move anywhere. And I've gone ahead and bolted the booster and of course the bracket on. And in terms of fitment, I do have some clearance. I'll try to get in there and show you. So as you can see, there's plenty of clearance there. So really happy to see that clearance. What's left now is basically welding up this panel for good. So all these holes that have been left from previous spot welds, I'll just use those and go ahead and weld it to the car. So finally at a stage I'm really happy to be at. One real big piece of the engine bay that's left before I can get this thing into colour. So super happy I'm so close to now getting this done and dusted. Alright, and here we are, all welded in and ground down. Still a few areas I need to concentrate on where there's a few little pinholes here and there. But as you can see, there's not too many of those to clean up, maybe about 3 or 4. And then we can move on to the next steps. So really happy how it's turned out. It's nice and solid. And as I called out in the last video, it just looks like it was supposed to be there. I mean, it sort of is. This is an XT and this panel come out of an XY, as you might recall. So they are basically the same body. Alright, I'm going to leave it there for the day and I'm going to come back possibly tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it'd have to be another day. But that's more just to finish off these areas and then of course start focusing on getting that top cover prepped and welded on. But we'll pick that up very soon. Alright, stick around for some more updates. So while I'm working on the side piece, I need to prep this up as well, get it ready for welding. And there's little bits of surface rust here and there. So I'm just going to soak a rag in DE.OX.IT and just lay the rag on top and let it penetrate in and neutralize that rust. So let's get that done and we'll come back a bit later on and see how it turns out. Alright, so what I've been doing is filling up some of the holes and grinding them up. I've also tried to make this edge as clean as I can, and I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. If I keep playing around with it, I feel like I'm just going to start making this metal too thin in spots. And at the end of the day, you know, it's hidden by the shock tower, so you won't even see that. The boost will be here. So, you know, any more effort spent here is probably not even worth it now. I think it looks fairly good as it is. And will look way better once I get it in primer and of course once the colour's on it. So what we're up to now is getting the top piece welded on. As you saw before, I've started to do the preparation work on it, which first up is just, you know, neutralise some of the surface rust that are on the flanges that would have mated up to the body here. And once that's done, I'll give it a coat of copper weld through primer and then position it up and start welding it. After that's welded in, of course just clean up the welds that are left, and then it's sand this up with 80 grit, clean it all up and get it in epoxy primer. Of course I'm going to have to do some blend work here and there, but that's not going to be too much of a problem. So anyway, that's where we're at. Stick around and I'll bring you back soon. So I've been cleaning up this piece with DE.OX.IT, a rust converter, and as you can see most of the surface is gone. There still are some spots here and there and on a couple of flanges that need to be detailed a little bit, but as you can see it's a lot better than before. So I'll keep doing that off camera. I might also straighten up some of these flanges with a hammer and dolly, and then we'll give it a final sand, clean up and put it in copper weld through primer and start getting ready to weld it on the car. Alright, stick around and I'll be back soon. Alright, we've got this thing all cleaned up and I actually sprayed it in copper weld through primer. Made a bloody mess. As you can see there's a lot of dribbles. I don't know what was going on with that spray can, but she just didn't want to play ball. The main thing is it's got 2 coats on there. Second coat came out totally disgusting, but good thing is you won't see it. So anyway, let's get this thing welded on. All right, and here we are, welded in and all ground up. Still some detail work to go, but it's actually 34 degrees outside, really hot. Tools are getting really hot to use. So I think I'm just going to call it here, and we'll wrap up this episode. So effectively what we've done is welded on this side panel, and the top panel has been welded back on. You're probably wondering what that weld is there. I'm trying to mimic what they did in factory. Didn't quite turn out, so I'm just going to have to grind that back and just try to make it look a little bit better. But that's the least of my worries at the moment. Really happy with it. Massive job. And what's left before we get this in primer is basically just finishing up any areas that might have a small pinhole or some weld that might need to be ground back a little bit more. But as you can see, there's not much to go. In the next episode, we'll probably get this thing in primer. There are a few other spots in the engine bay I do need to re-prime as well, so I might just do it all in one hit. So I may just leave this as is, and once I'm priming up the other areas, finish off getting this ready to go and pop it in primer. So I think we're going to leave it there for this episode. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. You got any comments? Feel free to leave them. Questions? Love to hear them. Otherwise, see you on the next one.